I've spent over $10,000 generating AI videos, hundreds of prompts, dozens of failed generations, and honestly, most of that money was wasted. Not because the tools are bad, but because I didn't know what I was doing. So in this video, I'm breaking down the exact things that actually worked. We're going to cover images, video realism, character consistency, emotions, sound, post-production, and how to stop burning credits on generations that go nowhere. By the end of this, your AI videos are going to look completely different. For this workflow, I used Higgsfield to create all the images and videos. It's an all-in-one platform with access to the latest AI models. You can find the link in the description. Let's get into it. First, let's talk about images. Good images are the foundation of good AI video. If your images aren't strong, even the best video model won't give you great results. To create images, go to Higgsfield, click Image, and select the Nano Banana 2 model. Lesson 1. Every location needs an anchor. The first mistake most people make is prompting a location with no structure, no fixed point for the model to build around. So build every location around one main object, a workbench, a chair, a locker, and describe everything else relative to it. For example, say you want to create an image of a futuristic workshop. Here's a bad prompt. Futuristic workshop, cinematic. The result looks like a generic stock photo, flat, lifeless, and lacking depth. Now compare that to a good prompt. Instead of just describing the location, define the workbench as the focal point, place shelves and lockers around it, specify the camera angle, lens, lighting direction, atmospheric dust, and film grain. The result looks like a real movie still. Same idea, completely different image. Before writing any location prompt, look at references from sites like ShotDeck. Find a frame with the look and mood you want. Then use that as your blueprint before you start prompting. Lesson 2, don't just create character sheets, create prop sheets as well. If your story includes an important prop, especially one attached to a character or something that looks different from different angles, give it its own reference sheet. Otherwise, the model will quietly redesign it in every generation, and consistency becomes a real problem. Now, for the character sheet itself. I build a full turnaround sheet with front, side, back, and close-up face panels all on one 16:9 canvas. Lock in every detail: the skin texture, the outfit, the cybernetic arm design, the proportions. Include a negative prompt to stop the model from going 3D or CGI. The goal is to give the model one single source for what your character looks like, so no matter which generation you're running, the character comes out identical every time. Then separately, build a prop sheet just for the cybernetic arm, full views from shoulder to fingertips, plus close-up wrist and hand angles. That one extra sheet alone will save you from regenerating the arm dozens of times because the model keeps quietly redesigning it when you're not looking. Lesson 3. Get rid of the plastic AI look. You know the one. Everything is too smooth, perfectly lit, and unrealistically clean. It instantly gives away that the image was AI generated. Luckily, there are two simple things you can add to make your images feel much more natural and realistic. First, add light atmospheric haze to every image prompt. Second, always specify your lighting direction, where the key light is, what the fill is, whether there's a practical light in the scene. Here's a bad prompt. A clean, evenly lit rooftop shot with no haze and no grain. The result looks exactly like a stock image, flat and lifeless. Now here's a good prompt. The cyborg has dramatic rim lighting from a neon billboard, rainfall through the frame, atmospheric haze, wet concrete reflections, and analog film grain. Compare both images. One looks like AI, one looks like a movie still. That's the difference haze and lighting direction make. Lesson 4, build scene sheets, not just individual shots. Instead of uploading multiple reference images separately and hoping the model figures out the space, stitch a wide shot and a reverse view into one single 16:9 image, both perspectives in one clean file. Call this a scene sheet. For example, first, I create an image of a cinematic, futuristic hallway. Then upload that same image as a reference and prompt a reverse view of that specific hallway with the exact same lighting. Nano Banana will generate a matching reverse angle. Now use both images together as your scene sheet so the generation model doesn't get confused about the environment. One last image rule: don't over-iterate. Every time you edit the same image, you degrade it slightly. When you find your best result, ask your LLM to describe its full layout in detail, then regenerate from scratch using that description. You'll always get a cleaner image than editing the same one 20 times. You can also use Higgsfield's Canvas to keep all of this organized. Store every character sheet, prop sheet, and scene sheet in one place so nothing ever gets lost. Now let's move on to making the videos. This is where your images turn into motion, and the biggest lesson here is that your prompt isn't just a description, it's a shot list. Treat it like a director's script. For this part, I'm using Seedance inside Higgsfield. Just click the video tab and switch the model to Seedance before generating your shots. The first lesson is for longer shots. Break the action into timestamps. Define what happens in the first few seconds, what happens next, and how the scene ends. This helps the model pace the action properly instead of rushing everything into the beginning of the clip. giving you a more natural and cinematic sequence. Here's a real example. For a workshop scene, describe the cyborg repairing his arm from 0 to 2 seconds. Tightening bolts, rotating the wrist assembly. Then, from 2 to 5 seconds, he activates the arm, fingers flex, indicator lights shift from red to blue. Then, from 5 to 7 seconds, he looks at the repaired arm and says, "It's ready." Anchor the camera low beside a scratch toolbox the entire time so it never moves.
It's ready.
The result is a fully staged 3-beat scene with natural pacing, realistic sparks, smooth servo motion, and clean lip sync. All in one generation. That's what timed beats do. Now compare that to prompting without any timestamps, just describing the action in one block. The model rushes everything into the first half of the clip, and the second half is basically a static hold. No pacing, no storytelling, no sense of a real scene. Watch both versions side by side, and you'll see exactly what I mean. The next lesson is to think in multi-shot sequences. For example, I wanted to create a Western saloon scene that played out across 5 separate shots. The first shot shows the cyborg entering through the swinging doors, silhouetted against the desert sunlight. The next follows him walking between the poker tables as a player lowers his cards. Then the bartender freezes mid-motion, followed by a close detail of the cyborg's cybernetic hand flexing with a subtle servo movement. Finally, the scene ends on a close-up as he quietly asks, "Where is Rake?"
Where is Rake?
Each shot has its own action, timing, and purpose, allowing the tension to build naturally and making the final sequence feel much more like a real film scene. For dialogue scenes specifically, always start with an establishing shot. One generation can hold the establishing shot, the line of dialogue, and the reaction. You don't need 3 separate clips for that. One well-structured prompt handles all of it. Lesson 3. Anchor the camera to something physical. Instead of saying medium shot, say something like camera locked low beside the scratch toolbox next to the workbench. That one change gives the model a clear reference point and helps prevent unwanted camera drift. Use this throughout your project. Anchor the camera to the bartender's counter in the saloon, a broken wardrobe in the bedroom, or the table between 2 characters during a conversation.
Upstairs. Room 7.
Each time, it helps maintain a consistent perspective and spatial layout across multiple clips in the same scene. Lesson 4. Embed your failure modes directly into the prompt. Here, during a standoff scene, the model keeps mirroring the character and placing the cybernetic arm on the wrong side. Don't just hope it fixes itself. Add explicit instructions like, don't mirror the character, don't swap arm sides, and don't change the cybernetic arm design. Once you start calling out the mistakes the model keeps making,
took you long enough.
This ends tonight.
the generations become much more consistent. If you notice recurring errors in your project, add those constraints directly to the prompt from the start. One more important lesson: longer prompts aren't always better. As you keep iterating and adding more instructions, prompts can become bloated and start confusing the model, leading to less consistent results. When that happens, rewrite the prompt from scratch or use a tool like Claude to compress and optimize it into a cleaner version. In most cases, a short, focused prompt will outperform a long, cluttered one. The character sheets handle the visual side, but emotional consistency is a completely different problem, and most people ignore it entirely. You can have a perfect character sheet and still get a performance that looks flat, stiff, and completely unbelievable. Here's how to fix that. Give your character a reason for what they're doing. Instead of only describing the action, include the situation they're in, what just happened, and what they're feeling or carrying into the scene. Then describe their physical behavior with specific details. The more context and body language you provide, the more believable and emotionally authentic the performance will feel. For a grief scene, I placed the cyborg alone in the burned ruins of his workshop at night, smoke drifting through broken beams, embers glowing in the darkness, a damaged photograph lying in the debris. Then describe his body: shoulders slumped lower than exhaustion, head hanging forward, completely motionless. For the close-up, write that his jaw tightens, the corners of his eyes glisten, his lower lip trembles almost imperceptibly, and that he looks heartbroken, not dramatic, like someone trying and failing to stay strong. The result is a genuinely moving performance. Subtle, restrained, and deeply human. No exaggerated crying, no theatrical acting, just a character quietly breaking apart. Prompt for emotions, not just actions. Instead of using simple labels like sad, tired, or relieved, describe the emotion through mood and physical behavior. Rather than saying a character is sad, describe the quiet devastation in their posture. Instead of saying they're relieved, describe their shoulders dropping, their body relaxing, and a deep breath finally escaping. The more specific and visual the emotion, the more natural and believable the performance becomes. For a desert sunrise scene after a battle, don't write that the character feels relieved. Write that his body is still tense and rigid at first, shoulders raised, back locked, as if expecting another attack. Then slowly the tension leaves. His cybernetic fingers unclench after being locked in a fist for a long time. He releases that breath. No smile, no triumph, just survival. The model delivered exactly that, one of the most cinematic generations you can get from any model. That's the difference between a character who looks like they're acting and one who feels like they're actually living through something. Sound is the most underrated part of AI video. Most people treat it as an afterthought, but the decisions you make at the prompt level directly affect how much control you have in post-production. Get this wrong and you'll spend hours trying to fix something that should have taken 2 seconds to prevent. When writing dialogue, consider spelling it the way you want it to sound, rather than relying entirely on standard spelling. This gives you more control over pronunciation, pacing, and delivery, especially for unusual names, accents, or stylized speech. The clearer you are about how a line should be spoken, the more natural and consistent the generated dialogue tends to be. In a saloon scene, "Where is Rake?" becomes "Where is Rake?" in the prompt. The bartender's line, "Upstairs, room 7" becomes "Upstairs, room 7." And in the workshop scene, "It's ready" becomes "It's ready." Small change in the prompt. Massive difference in how natural the dialogue sounds on screen. One of the most useful habits is to request environmental sounds only and avoid adding music directly into your generations. AI models often insert dramatic background music into emotional scenes, and once it's baked into the video, removing it cleanly can be very difficult. For every generation, specify the ambient sounds you want to hear. Things like workshop hums, tool clicks, servo motors, distant ventilation fans, saloon ambiance, wooden floor creaks, glasses clinking, room tone, or subtle environmental movement. Keep music out of the generation entirely and add it later during editing, where you have complete control over the timing, volume, and emotional impact. Most people treat editing as the final step, something you do after everything is generated. That's the wrong way to think about it. Editing is part of the generation process, and the sooner you start, the better your final video will be. Edit as you go. Don't wait until all your clips are done before you touch the timeline. Drop each clip in as you generate it, with your music already underneath. This tells you immediately whether the pacing works, and more importantly, it shows you exactly which transitional shots you're still missing before you've run out of credits. You'll save yourself from so many unnecessary regenerations just by checking the timeline early. Use audio to bridge cuts. When 2 clips don't flow naturally into each other, don't just cut hard between them. Use an L cut. That's where the audio from the previous clip, a door closing, a servo sound, ambient room noise, keeps playing over the first frame of the next visual. It's the most natural feeling way to hide a cut, and it makes the whole edit feel like one continuous piece instead of a collection of separate clips stitched together. Bridge jarring cuts with an establishing shot. If 2 clips feel too abrupt back to back, drop a medium or wide establishing shot between them. It gives the viewer's eye a beat to reset before the next scene hits. Use this constantly, especially when cutting between a close-up and a completely different location. One establishing shot in the middle, and the whole sequence flows. This one is short, but it matters, because the fastest way to burn through your credits isn't bad generations, it's bad habits. A failed generation is never fully wasted. 2 seconds of a failed clip might be exactly what you need. Cut usable moments out of generations you were about to delete. A hand movement, a reaction shot, a single frame that works perfectly as a cutaway. Always review the full clip before you throw it away. There is almost always something salvageable in there. Spend the time on the prompt up front. The single biggest credit drain is regenerating, because the first prompt was vague. Every extra minute you spend writing a detailed, specific prompt before you hit generate saves you from running the same scene 4 times. 1 generation from a great prompt beats 5 from a lazy one every single time. Use annual billing and unlimited pass models. If you're a heavy user, and if you're watching this video, you probably are. Annual billing on Higgsfield saves you a significant amount over monthly. And Higgsfield has unlimited pass models, specific like models that don't draw from your credit balance at all. Right now, that includes Seedance Unlimited, and there's also Seedance Fast available underneath it for quicker generations. Use those for all your early iteration rounds, testing compositions and angles before you commit credits to the final generation. That one habit alone will cut your monthly credit spend in half. So that's everything I've learned from spending $10,000 on AI video. Images, realism, characters, sound, editing, credits, it's all connected. And once you get these fundamentals right, everything clicks. And look, it's important to always use the latest models so your generations look realistic. That's exactly why I'm using Higgsfield. Everything you saw in this video was built inside it. Link is in the description. See you in the next one.